All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the last section on the politics and economics of the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia. In this region, I just want to focus on a few of these aspects of population. For example, when we look at the region, we will notice that the areas that are the driest, where we find the Sahara Desert, for example, or the empty quarter of Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, these are areas where we have very low population density. Most of the population is going to be located near the coast or areas where we have water, for example, along the Nile River. Turkey, Syria, Iran, and Iraq are going to be more populous in areas of the mountains, as well as Yemen. Yemen and Saudi Arabia are going to be more populated in the coasts of the Red Sea. When we think about this region, we also imagine, right, that most of the countries are oil producers. However, oil is not really concentrated everywhere equally. Countries like Lebanon and Morocco, for example, have very little oil. The largest oil producers are Iran, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, and also the United Arab Emirates, and Iraq as well, and Kuwait. Qatar also produces natural gas along with Bahrain. Oil revenues are often used, however, to purchase military hardware and equipment. For example, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia have been fighting a war in Yemen against a group of rebels, and they have been using their oil revenues to buy hardware from the United States. They also fund controversial research and development, such as uranium enrichment, and they have the power of oil and the wealth from it has changed the balance of power in the region, where Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have become some of the main military powers in the region that are opposed to the government in Iran. The region is also characterized by its dysfunctional governments and politics. For example, in some of these countries like Saudi Arabia and Morocco, as well as Jordan, we still have kingdoms and dynasties, right? We have monarchies, excuse me. And the region, however, has not seen a lot of economic growth. And so oftentimes, several of these factors combine. For example, youth unemployment was one of the main detonators of the Arab Spring, which was a protest movement for democracy and economic equality that happened between 2010 and 2011. What we're looking at here are bar graphs of different countries and the unemployment of young people aged between 15 and 24. We are looking at the blue graphs in 2010, and the 2012 graphs are in red. And most of these countries, right, all of these countries have unemployment over 60% for young people. So young people were the most upset. In Egypt, for example, in Tunisia, we had dictatorships, ruled by one man for 30 years. We'll see what happens in countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates moving in the future. But as late as 2019, we also had a second wave of protests and strikes, and other forms of turmoil, related mostly in countries like Iraq, Syria as well, but also as far as Sudan and also Mauritania and Morocco as well. And then in 2021, we also saw large protests in the Palestinian territories. So we continue to see democratic revolutions, the demands for equal votes for the population, and also protests against corruption in Iraq and Lebanon, where the governments, the upper classes, benefit and keep the resources for themselves, while the majority of the population in the bottom of society is just getting by, especially in Lebanon. And we will continue to see protests in Lebanon and in the region, because there is a lot of inequality between the top of the rich of the country and the bottom of the population. When we look at Central Asia, this region has evolved from being part of the Soviet Union up until the 1990s to today composing 6 countries Afghanistan, for example, was not part of the USSR, although it was occupied by the USSR for a time. Most of these countries, as you can see, produce energy either through gas and oil or hydropower. Kazakhstan is the country that also produces energy through coal. So this region is very resource rich, especially for gas and oil and hydropower. For example, Afghanistan could produce 76% of its energy from hydropower. Turkmenistan and Tajikistan produce most of their electricity also from hydropower. Today, the region, however, is mostly poor except for Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, which are oil-rich, resource-rich countries. And so we see a large migration of people from Tajikistan to Russia and an economic opening from Kyrgyzstan to China, for example, because the region is trying to attract investment. Okay, that's it for the modern issues in economics and politics of the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia. I hope that you find the lecture interesting and useful. Thank you.